Everyone. I am sitting here with the next of our rebel women, and this is Julie Stevens. And Julie works for DS Smith in my own hometown of Sittingbourne in Kent. I was so delighted to be able to do a tour, which was organised by Laura Orcott with Julie. And I can't tell you how impressed I was at this woman and her team and all the stuff that they're into, which is really cutting edge safety, but which, she wasn't on any stages talking about. So I thought I have to interview Julie Stevens. So hello, Julie.
Hi, hello. Thank you very much for having me and saying some very lovely words.
So, right, let's start out, Julie, by asking you about how you ended up in health and safety. Did you set out to be a health and safety professional, or did you, like most of the women I've spoken to, somehow fall into it?
That's pretty much it. Did I set out as a career for this? No, not at all. I started in law, and it's interesting that when I done my law degree, a few years ago, health and safety law wasn't even an option. It obviously had your usual contracts and property law and criminal law and quite a big sort of family law, but health and safety wasn't an option. I wasn't really even aware of what it was, what it meant. And I'd done my degree as I wanted to do and worked in law for a little bit. And it was a case of the company I worked for started to dabble in that because it's got strong, obviously, crossover with law. And I'd quite a steep learning curve, but I really enjoyed it. And I really enjoyed it because it's about people. So I love the law. I still love the law now. Give me a great big book with loads of information. Give me loads of data. I love it. But I also love going out and talking to people. And I love looking at things. And you don't get that in all careers. And I have to say, a career in health and safety gives you such a mixed bag where you can sit at a desk and you can write and you can research and you can think. But you can also go, do you know what? I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to go and look at things. I'm going to go and talk to people. And it's rare to have a career that does that. So when the opportunity came up to sort of move and change a little bit, I did, and about 20 years later, I'm still doing it and enjoying it. So
Well, where did you start then? Where did you get your first health and safety break?
yeah, so it was with a small consultancy to start off with. And it meant that I got to go and do lots of small different industries across sort of London and South East, which was great because it meant you got to learn true risk management skills, not just knowledge on a particular career. But it also meant you got to meet different people in different places, experience different industries, which gives you a really good sample and a really good foundation. So when you move forward in your career, whilst you may end up like I am at the minute in the manufacturing industry, and I've been here for in a couple of companies, probably about 15, 16 years, I often think back to the other industries and other places that I've been, how they done it, what worked, what didn't work, and it just gives you that wealth of different ideas and sort of that toolkit to pull on. So it was a really good foundation, and I really enjoyed my time there, and I learned a lot, and I worked with some fantastic people. I had an excellent sort of boss and mentor who meant the world to me, really, really pushed me along. But it meant that for me, I got to that point where I wanted to be embedded somewhere so you can see the full life cycle, make that real difference from, idea through to a result and then go, do you know what's next? Because I'm a genuine believer in continual improvement as well. It's not just here's a plan, here's an initiative, happy days, we've done it. It's what do we do next? How do we shape that? Not to create mass instability, but because life never stays the same. The workforce
No.
never stays the same. The company changes. So you always need to sort of innovate, and being in a company I always found sort of gave me that opportunity to sort of take that approach as well. That's what I enjoy the
It was really interesting because I talked to Renuka Mehta a couple of days ago, and we were talking about the fact that you can get very typecast into an industry, can't you? And it's really silly because you can learn from whichever industry you're in. You can bring best practice across. Obviously, in the position that you're in, you've really got to play two very different things, haven't you? You've got to be talking to the workforce and influencing them and trying to get them to work safely and understand why they don't work safely. But equally, you've got to convince senior management to spend money, do things differently. Which is the hardest?
Well, that's a really good question. And yeah, a really difficult one to answer because it's different skill sets, different approaches. And I'm a great believer. I am who I am. This is me. Doesn't matter if I'm talking to you or I'm talking to someone else. And I use that, or I don't use that. That I think is one of my like, power tools. It's the foundation of how I go about what I do. And I find that if I'm engaging with the workforce, generally understanding what they're doing, how they're doing it, what they need, how we can support, how I can empower them, which to me is another really big thing in health and safety, is how you empower people. It's trying to break down those boundaries, particularly being a woman in a male dominated industry. And, I'm not off the tools. I am a white
No.
collar person.
Yeah.
For people to realise that you are normal and you can have a chat and you can have a laugh and you can talk about these things gets you a really long way. But by the same token, when you're sort of, in a leadership meeting and you're talking to the person with the purse strings, you need to sort of slightly change tack. But this is still me. I'm still passionate about what I do and what I believe in and why it's important. You just might change the angle slightly about the benefits to the business, the kind of usual things, and what the cost of it and how it's going to be managed and what the output will be. But ultimately, it always comes down to that baseline. So
I love that, and that has come out a lot from the interviews I've had. Is this authenticity piece? This is me, and being yourself, not trying to be the best in the mold of, but just being who you are. That's come out very strongly. Um, what's come out really strongly is authenticity, and that's come out from a number of interviews. You've also talked about you had a really good boss.
yeah,
Knowing how to talk to people is really important. But what other things do you think are required to make you a successful health and safety professional? And is it different in different environments, in different roles, or as you progress?
I think the next most important thing is about being persistent and consistent in what you do, because regardless of your level in a business, you are a role model. And particularly the type of career we're in, people will really look to you to see what you're doing. Because obviously, when you go out and you're talking to people, doesn't matter who it is, you're always asking someone to do something or to engage in something. And they don't report to you invariably. You may have a team, but that team is small and they're not usually the ones doing the doing per se. So people look to you and what you do. So it's about role modeling and setting the example, but being persistent and consistent in what you do, because if you don't walk the walk and talk the talk, why would anybody else? But also because it is a challenge and you need to not give up. You need to be quite tenacious and believe in what you do, so that if you have a day or a week or a particular thing you're going through and it's a bit of a push and it's a bit of a hurdle or it's not quite landed, you go, do you know what else, what next, how can we get there? And you just keep going. So just keep,
I love this idea of persistence, though. Persistence and resilience, and they're kind of two sides of the same coin, aren't they? You have to
yeah,
keep going at it.
yeah.
So, so a lot of people have talked about being mentored or being part of networks. Have either of them been something that you've utilised or have been important to you?
Yeah, 100%. Mentors are really, really important. And I've had sort of two styles, if you like. I've had some really good bosses, particularly earlier in my career, who want to share their knowledge, be it technical about the industry or about health and safety and life experiences, particularly when you're younger. We all think we know it all. Even now, I think I know it all. But there's always something to learn. And when you listen to people, which is a really important skill set anyway in this job, but if you've got a line manager or someone else within a business who takes you under their wing and wants to share, that's worth its weight in gold, because you can absorb and learn through their experiences far more quickly than you will progressing through your career. But also, I'm really lucky. I have a fantastic husband who is a health and safety. Have fantastic conversations at home sometimes.
So you're exciting place to be at home, then, aren't you?
Yeah, I thought it was something going, God, your life must be exciting. But I am quite lucky because he's and not just because he's my husband, but he's incredibly accomplished, and I very much respect his technical and legal knowledge and his life experiences and what he's done and how he does it. And it just means that I'm quite fortunate that throughout my career I've always had that sort of person in the background where if I go home and I want to bounce something off him, or vice versa for him, it's another learning opportunity. So
Wow,
where he's the
that's
director,
amazing. Yeah.
absolutely, and where he's a director and I'm not, I've learnt a lot and I've contributed indirectly to what he does and vice versa. And that's not what
I bet.
everybody can say. So sort of the mentoring thing is worth its weight in gold. And I advocate anybody to find someone
Yeah.
who's interested in what they do and just spend some time with them. And then the networking side of things is something that's probably come a bit later in my career. I think
Right.
social media helps with that, and things like this are amazing. It's just those little opportunities that you can be with other people and have a chat and share some experience and build up some relationships. But also having that with people from other professions, not just other industries, but other professions, because the challenges we face aren't all unique to health and safety.
No,
You know,
no,
people
they're not.
yeah, so people issues or people, aspects transcend everything. Every single department, career, industry goes, oh, we have people. How do we? So there's always learning opportunities there as well. So both are really valuable. Both made a big difference.
And so you've talked a bit about being a woman in a very male-dominated environment. Um, so how have you navigated that? And are they different to being a professional woman anywhere, do you think?
Yeah, I'd say it's a mixed bag on that. Early doors, I've been doing health and safety for like, say, about 20 years. Early doors, I probably was, I wouldn't say the only woman, but it was really rare to come across another female. And I have, not particularly through choice, but I've always worked in male dominated industries. So I'd be all kitted up, out with the workers. They're all men, all men. I'm not. And go back 20 years ago, you may be judged in a particular lens,
Yeah,
and you get the odd pockets, if you like. You don't get that these days, but nonetheless, I suppose it's going back to one of my earlier answers. When you go into a workplace with a workforce, and it's trying to build that relationship that it's all right and you're normal and they can have a chat, because you can sometimes be prejudged of being a bit delicate, maybe.
yes, yeah, yeah,
It's a woman, oh God, no, this, that, and the other. Whereas when they realise it's all okay and you're all normal, it goes a long way. But that's changed over my career. But I think probably all women in most professions experience an element of that. It's perhaps slightly stronger when you're in male-dominated environments nowadays. There's far more women, both in the industry that I'm in, but also when I go to events, health and safety events or environmental and wellbeing events, loads of women, absolutely loads of women, and it's amazing and really good to see, because it shows that it's become a career and environment that people can flourish in, of which
mm.
brings the same benefits by having a more diverse workforce.
And what about being a working mum?
Oh. Yeah, that's the real life bit, isn't it? Yeah, it's a challenge. It's always a challenge. I've got two girls, and it is a balancing act, because we have careers as well as being parents. It's careers. You want to perform well as a mum and at work, and it's a juggle, but you just persevere. And I think it's also about my personal view. It's different for everybody. I role model for my girls that you can do anything you want to do. It's important to hold your own. Again, very much my personal view. You can go out, you can have a career, you can be independent, and nothing should stop you in what you want to do and how you do it. It's juggling acts, but we get there. I think.
How old are your girls, Julie?
Well, I've got a 17-year-old, so she's just starting year 13, so last year of A
Okay.
levels, and then I've got an 8-year-old. Right, but it keeps life interesting.
It does. I bet it does. So is there anything that's you think has been a big challenge that you've had to overcome?
I would say it's having that resilience and that persistence. And I say that in the sense of every day is different. You have periods that are more challenging than others, and life still goes on. So you've got the what you want or need to achieve where you are professionally, and then there's the balance of your home life and looking after your children and all that kind of stuff. But is there a standout thing in my career where I've gone, wowee, that was such a challenge and I got over it? Crises that I've come over, but there are definitely periods where things can be really busy and really challenging. You've just got to, dig down and keep going and really believe in yourself and what you're doing. And sometimes that can be quite difficult, just in my nature.
When we spoke and you gave your presentation, I was like, oh my goodness, this is like bingo of all the new ideas in health and safety. And you're just doing it naturally, right? It's just happening. And but I haven't seen you at any of the big conferences. And I'm like, where is this coming from? And how are you managing to integrate it all so without it seeming to be so difficult like it does for many people?
I think it's the way you think about things. So for me, I've always thought like that. It's one thing to write a policy or procedure, which fundamentally is straightforward. But if you want something to land, it's not about going, oh, we have a lovely policy, it's in a folder, it's dusty. It's how you make that work. And to make something work, you have to have a holistic view of the business. Because as safety people, we want safety to be BAU. We want it to be the way things are, the way you do things. You look at all those cultural models and it will all say, well, it should just be natural. So for something to be natural, it needs to be integrated and fit in with business practices. So whenever
Yes.
I've done something, pretty much from the beginning of my career, I've always gone, what process already exists that I can piggyback into? I create something and go, well, why don't we take, a bit of engineering, a bit of production, whatever it is, and go, we can do this together because it will bring some sort of benefit. And then what you end up with is a way of working that is more aligned, and people often then don't realise they're doing it.
No.
So I had a conversation recently with someone, and they were sort of saying, "Oh, well, they're quite compliant." So actually, no, we do things in a way that they don't really realise they're doing it. And then you do those piecemeal changes and those tweaks and adjustments. And if you take health and well-being, for example, a lot of people struggle with the tangibility of what that means and how you do that. But in reality, if you step back and say, from a health and safety perspective, what do I do? From a HR perspective, what do I do? And how can health and well-being link in with all of that? You find that actually you're doing a lot. You just need to tweak it and change your lens, and then you improve and bolster it in quite a natural way. That suddenly one day people go, "Oh, yeah, we do lots in health and well-being. Isn't that great?" Just it's a
Love
different
that
way of
so
thinking.
much. I was going to actually, one of my questions was going to be, what's the links between well-being and safety? Because obviously my bread and butter is well-being, psychosocial risk assessment, that sort of thing. And I was talking to somebody I was interviewing the other day, and she said to me, Heather, I didn't know you did well-being. I thought you were only women in health and safety, and I was a bit frustrated. So she said, add a question in to everybody: what's the link between safety and well-being? But
Yeah,
what I love about what you've said is, with wellbeing particularly, we're on a maturity curve, aren't we? And basically people started off with a few random interventions,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then they started to think, which is where I come in with, well, how do we create a measurable strategy based on those interventions? But
yeah.
the reality is that it really needs to go a step further, which is, what do we as a business want to achieve? What are our risks and opportunities? How does wellbeing, HR, health and safety, all of our people's stuff, how does that all go together, and where do we
Yeah.
prioritize?
Absolutely, 100%. You're absolutely spot on. It's taking your risk management philosophy and applying it to the other angle, so that you actually get back to, what do we think are our risks and our opportunities, and what can we do about it? Because even myself, going back 10 odd years ago, I started going, oh, what fun things can we do? It's awareness and profile raising, which is good and important. It doesn't solve anything. It just gives some
No.
people some tools and some insight, and it's working back to front a little bit and going, well, actually, we want to do something here that makes a difference there, or even stop getting to that point. And it's applying that risk management philosophy and recognizing that you probably already have the frameworks. And it's
Yes.
that brings it to life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so, is there a particular legacy that you would like to leave? Obviously, there are many years of work left in you, Julie. I can see that.
Thank
But
you.
when you do look back, what would you like to say you've left in health and safety? And do you have advice for the next generation of women coming through?
Yeah, absolutely. I would like to leave a legacy of empowerment, because for me, I spent the last sort of few years doing leadership sessions, a little bit of coaching, and it sounds so silly and so simple, but I think I've discovered my purpose, and that sounds so bizarre for someone who's been doing it for so long. And it was an epiphany when I kind of thought about it, come out of it, and it's to empower people, and I thought, that's it in a nutshell. Because you can have laws, really important, and I'm a passionate advocate of it, but people need to do it. And in health and safety and well-being, people have to take action for themselves, look after themselves and look after others. And to do that, they have to feel that they have the ability to do that. They need to feel empowered to make a decision, to say yes, to say no, to say, actually, can we do X, or I've got an idea. And that means they need to be empowered. It's, if I can leave the legacy of, Julie helped us too. go our own way, then for me, that is a massive thing. And then for the next generation, I would say it's just go for it, get stuck in. Don't wait until you've got all your NEBOSH certificate and your diploma, or you've done this and you've done that. Just get stuck in, because it is the practical experience. The qualifications are important, but also so is the experience, and sort of cutting your teeth in those environments and recognizing how important it is to find a mentor or a network or someone you just reach out to on LinkedIn and say, can I have a chat? I've had a couple of those, and then we have a chat, and it's amazing. I really enjoy it, they really enjoy it, and then you kind of got a friend for life. And those things make a massive difference, because you're not alone, particularly if you go into a new industry and you're like, cool, blimey, what's that, how does that work? There's always someone else you can have a little chat to, and it can make all the difference in the world.
Well, Julie, I think you're absolutely fabulous. I really do. And it's an absolute honour to speak to you today. Thank you so much.